Well, then welcome to another episode of Decoding Chemical Engineering. We are here today with Mr. SAUD KHALID, who is a chemical engineer, a graduate from the University of Gujarat, who is working in the industry and also founder of his own consultancy services. Thank you very much, Saud, for being with us here today, and welcome to the podcast. We are
Thank you
very
very much,
happy to
Hamza, on having me on the platform.
thank you. Well, thank you very much for being here, and we are very happy to have you. And we have lots of questions to ask you about your education and about your industrial experience and generally about chemical engineering. But before we begin, can you kindly tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I did my Bachelor of Chemical Engineering from University of Gujarat in Pakistan, and after my graduation, I joined process sector. My first industrial job was in soap and detergent manufacturing sector. It was during my final semester of my degree, and then I joined as a chemical process engineer in Service Chemicals Private Limited, which is a leading manufacturer of sulfuric acid and single superphosphate fertilizer. And I worked there for almost 2 year and 1 or 2 months there. And after then, I moved into Akbari Chemical Industry, where I am working for the sulfate of potash production line. And it is the first of latest technology, and it is you can say that up to date plant in Pakistan. It is a modern complex built by Chinese as well as cooperation of Chinese and Pakistani engineers. So yes, it is a great to be part of this team.
Mhm. Well, amazing. We're very happy to have an expert person like you on the podcast. So once again, thank you so much for being here. So then let's get the ball rolling. Well, then you've been in the field for quite some while now, and you have had quite a lot of success with it as well. Just like you said. But first things first. Back in the day, what brought you to the world of chemical engineering?
Yeah, since my school days, I was more inclined to the chemistry side, like mixing of the compounds during the school labs and performing all the experiment at the college level. It was first of the motivation which inclined me to the chemical engineering side. At the start of the degree or choosing between the type of engineering for a university degree, I had not that really sound knowledge of chemical engineering. That what is the real chemical engineering? But yes, I chose it on the basis of chemistry, that my interest was in chemistry side, and then it led me to the selection of chemical engineering. But when I realized by reaching in university class that chemical engineering is quite a bit different from the general chemistry, which is a novel concept of many people, that chemistry and chemical engineering are almost the same field, but it's not true in most of the cases.
Exactly. But to follow up on that, because now since you said that you came in because of chemistry and you found it to be very different to what you had hoped for, but now if I was to ask you to define chemical engineering, how would you define that in very simple terms to someone that might not know anything about chemical engineering?
Yeah, chemical engineering is quite very simple. A simple thing is like, as you can see, I can define it that material processing, transformation of materials for the
Mhm.
manufacturing of new chemicals. It is not relying only on the manufacturing of new chemicals. It can
Mhm.
be defined on the basis that a transformation of a material, a particular element or a compound into a new product for the betterment of human. Either it can be for the purpose of commercial businesses as well as for industrial developments. So yes, chemical
Mhm.
engineering is the material it involves the material transfer, which really we can say that mass transfer in chemical engineering as a subject. And as differentiating between the chemistry and chemical engineering is that chemistry is quite a research based subject or domain of study, while the chemical engineering is the practical application of the chemical concepts that are applied for the manufacturing of new chemical compounds, either for industry or for household or for domestic purposes.
Mhm. Amazing. Very nicely put. Thank you so very much for that. So they are kind of fundamentally linked. The chemistry part, that is just the theoretical part. Chemical engineering is the practical part
Yeah,
of
the practical
the same thing.
application.
Perfect. Well, thank you so very much for sharing that. Thank you. But now moving on to back then when you were studying chemical engineering, back to your education days. You went to the University of Gujarat. The University of
Yes.
Gujarat does have a very famous and a very renowned chemical engineering department. Uh, how was the workload while you were studying at that university?
Yes, it was quite a heavy workload for many of the students. Yes, uh, we had our classes, the practicals, the lab times, as well as the studying the research paper and research article, that what is going on these days in the research and development industry. And beside that, we had the coursework, including our subjects, theoretical exams, quizzes, assignments, and all of the presentation stuff. So it was quite like a roller coaster ride for many of us, and we had many challenges during our study. Not the challenges in terms of that those kind of the financial challenges, but not it is the challenges that are in terms of the subject. We had some quite interesting subjects, including the fluid mechanics, the heat transfer, and the thermodynamics. And we had quite some challenging subjects for as a student, such as plant design. Plant design is a very complex phenomenon, and it includes all the application of the basic core subjects of chemical engineering in generalized to develop a new plant for any process or any product development. And usually it composed of 4-year degree program in Pakistan. Here we had first we have to take some entry test, which is the requirement of different universities. For government, public sector universities and private university, government conducts a test that is called the ECAT, Engineering College Admission Test, conducted by our Punjab government. It's a province of Pakistan. And then students are selected on the basis of merit, that seats or the admissions are provided to the candidates on the basis of merit in different universities. So yes, I was selected as a student of chemical engineering, and I got admission in University of Gujarat. If I was lucky enough that I got admission in my hometown university, and luckily I went there. And during the 4 years, we had some basic startup of courses. First of all, in first year, most of the courses was like introduction to the chemical engineering. What is chemical engineering, including the mathematics, the fundamental mathematics, which is highly required for the chemical calculations. And then we had some industrial chemistry, chemical like stoichiometry, the psychometric concept, the material and energy balances. And then we moved on to chemical process industries in our second semester, and courses like fluid mechanics, heat transfer, thermodynamics came into the party. And we had to face all of them. And during the third year, we had started some university projects, which we called as semester project or lab reports. We submitted to our respective supervisors and teachers for the projects. There was some competition type between the students, including the development of new projects, some lab assignments, some research paper studying phenomena, because the research culture is growing very enormously in University of Gujarat nowadays. And recently, some of our teachers got published their paper in some renowned journals with good impact factor scores. So yes, it is a quite honor for all of us. And during the final year, we had some plant design projects. As far as my final year project was concerned, it was on the production of nitric acid by concentration of nitric acid by ammonia rectification process.
Amazing. It really sounds like a roller coaster ride, just like you said in the very beginning.
Yes, of course.
Exactly. But if I was just to follow up on what you said regarding the challenging subjects that you have to study, and everyone knows that chemical engineering does have very difficult subjects. To name a few that you mentioned, transport process, thermodynamics, and so on. Yeah. Do you have any tips for any of the other graduates that might be facing similar trouble with these topics? Like if you were to share, how were you able to overcome the difficulty of these subjects?
Yes, during my bachelor study, I faced some difficulty in thermodynamics subject. So I had some difficulty in facing the heat transfer transfer of heat with the mechanism of the cycles. And usually it was like a heavy course or a heavy dose for me. So I used to watch the YouTube animation videos for them. There are a lot of chemical engineering channels that are available, which elaborates the core topics very concisely. And yes, a student can learn from YouTube animation, as well as there were some few literature notes available in local language of Pakistan, which is Urdu or Urdu. So I studied a few notes from them of our undergraduate students in terms of those who are studying in Urdu medium. And the difficulty which I faced was actually about the understanding of the topic. Like yes, I can say that there is a Brayton cycle, and generally a chemical engineering student consider it that it is not of his own core, because it involves some mechanical process in the system. Then we can say that when there was a mechanical process involved, most of the students considered that it is not their subject. But we have to study that particular topic as well, because we have to pass the exam. And for that, I watched the YouTube lesson animation, as well as some free online courses. Platforms are available at my time, and we can watch from them. So if a student is facing a problem in particular subject, he can first consult with his teacher who is teaching that subject to the university class, or first he should consult with him. If he is not relying, or if the teacher is not helping him out, he should move to the YouTube. YouTube is the best teacher nowadays.
Exactly. I fully agree. YouTube is you can literally find anything on YouTube nowadays. So you're
Yeah.
very right. So for the graduates that are about to apply for chemical engineering, if you could tell us like what should they be aware of and what is the level of skills in physics and maths they should have before they apply for chemical engineering?
Yes, one should be good enough in subjects like physics and mathematics. There's not
Hmm.
an extraordinary skill is required for this chemical engineering particularly. Like
Hmm.
if I talk about mechanical engineering side or electrical engineering side, you have to study physics in depth, in applying the physics laws or the mathematics. But yes, in chemical engineering, maths and physics are not that much involved as compared to the chemistry. But yes,
Hmm.
one should be good enough and has command on the subject or the core topics of mathematics and physics, such as the integration, the derivation, the complex problem solving, the analysis of a physical problem, physics relating any problem, any
Hmm.
the laws of energy and mass conservation. That are the most important concepts in chemical engineering. And we have to
Hmm.
apply all of them in our, including major subjects like in stoichiometry and thermodynamics. We have to apply the laws of energy and mass conservation. So if a student
Hmm.
is very good, very good in physics, he will perform in chemical engineering, like his understanding will be much better than a student who is not as good in physics or math in general.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for sharing that. But then I would like to ask another question that's similar to this one. That you said in the very beginning that even though chemical engineering is not strictly chemistry, but there are still a little bit of aspects of chemistry that you still need to be able to, that you still need to be good at, right? Uh, Within chemical engineering, what were the few chemistry subjects that you had to study as a bachelor student?
As an undergraduate student, we have to study the chemical process industries. It was the
Hmm.
subject covering the major chemical industries, including urea manufacturing, the ammonia manufacturing, the
Hmm.
cement industry, the petrochemical and petroleum side. So the
Hmm.
concept of the industries were accumulated into a book, which was then provided to us, and the teacher taught us a subject of chemical process industry. Beside that, there was organic and inorganic chemistry, specially designed for the basics before moving on to the process industries. And then we have studied the chemical reaction engineering, in which the different type of reactors and reactions and reaction chemistry
Hmm.
was highly involved. So chemistry like a backbone of chemical engineering. But the main difference between chemical engineering and the chemistry is that chemical engineering is actually the practical application of what chemists do in a lab.
Hmm.
Like we can say that chemical engineers also do research, but yes, chemists provide the research background for a particular invention of a chemical, or either he has invented any, or he has discovered any element or any mineral, or he has made a new compound. Then he provides the whole laboratory mechanism of that chemical. After
Hmm.
that, a chemical engineering has a task to make it that product from lab, to bring out that product from lab to the commercial scale. Either it has an application in the future in the household or domestic application, or for another industry.
Hmm. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you. Uh, but then I have to ask, was your degree more mathematical based or was it more lab based?
It was more lab based. Uh,
Hmm.
as far as the math was concerned, math was involved in the calculation of like in our projects, in our semester assignments, or in our exams.
Hmm.
But yes, the lab work was we have a lot of tasks related to the lab work, and we usually had about 3 to 4 labs during our each semester, and it
Hmm.
was like about 2 to 3 hours of lab each day.
Hmm. Amazing. Perfect.
We can
Thanks.
say I can say that we have spent about one third time of our degree in labs.
Amazing. And engineering is all about hands-on applications, right? So you have to be in the lab to test everything out. Unless you can't really learn engineering, you can't call yourself an engineer if you haven't really been in the mud and played around with your own hands. But uh, but
Exactly.
thank you so very much for sharing all the information about your education. Now we'll move into to talk about your work experience that you have had once you graduated.
Yes.
So first things first, do you remember the first job that you had after you graduated?
Yeah, before let me tell you thing that I started an internship in the final semester of my degree, and that
Mm-hmm.
company offered me job. So I got job during my final semester of degree. Actually, it was the COVID-19 days, and most of the study was shifted to the online mode. So I had a time for doing an
Mm-hmm.
internship. In the evening, I went to the industry for learning or a practical demonstration of the process. Although
Mm-hmm.
I have done three internships during my bachelor study, but then after during my final year, I went to join a company. It was
Mm-hmm.
basically a soap and detergent manufacturer at medium scale, and usually they export their product to the local market as well as to
Mm-hmm.
Afghanistan as well as Sri Lanka.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually given the task of the optimization of single contact, single absorption plant during my first job after graduation. And they had some issues related to the environment and stack control. Obviously, there were many problems inside the plant. Lines were choked and the catalyst problems. So we transformed that plant from single contact to double contact process for the sulfuric acid, and our task was accomplished in my almost 9 to 10 months of my first job.
Mm-hmm.
I designed the heat exchanger and the catalytic reactor for this transformation. The absorption towers were obviously dismantled, and a new distributor as well as the whole towers. One of the towers was reinstalled. So it
Mm-hmm.
was complete transformation. After that, I was promoted to the project engineer. Our company had after fulfilling the legal requirement, government approved their bid for installation of a new plant. So
Mm-hmm.
I was tasked with the for the I was tasked by the like management of our company for the installation of sulfuric acid plant, and then I installed a complete one. And I supervised that project, and I recently commissioned that project. It is basically a 130 ton per day sulfuric
Mm-hmm.
acid plant by double contact, double absorption process.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. I mean, that sounds like you have had quite a lot of responsibilities along your career, even as being a young engineer. You have had chance
Yes.
of playing with the, of course, you could say, building up plants, optimizing a full-fledged production lines. So that's very remarkable and very impressive that your employer did see the potential in you and gave you the responsibility, and you handled it quite successfully, might I add. But then, of course, then I have to ask, now that you were working at such with such great responsibility, building up the plants, and you were also working as a project management as a process engineer. How did your normal typical day look like at workplace?
It was a full busy day. It was a
Mhm.
full busy day. Like I can say you that there was many sleepless nights. I had no time for taking a complete rest from my work because during the construction stage, when the plant was started and at the initial phase, there was some construction work. So the construction supervisors were there. They were like overall scheduling they presented their whole schedule of construction for the plant for the basis of our equipment
Mhm.
which they made. Obviously, it is the civil engineers' work. And after that, our game started. So we had to play in our zone. We were the mechanical side, the process side were all involved in this project. And I designed that complete plant into like a software design. Then
Mhm.
there's mechanical design compatibility with discussing it with some mechanical experts. And after that, we installed our projects in different stages. Like we installed started from the civil side, then we installed our CD circulation tank, and after that we installed our tower. I'm talking about the mechanical structure. And at the
Mhm.
end of the plant, the major lining was done, lining was carried out, as well as the AC coolers and the catalytic reactor was completed. There was some ceramic work which has to be done around the reactor, inside the reactor, basically to accumulate the heat and not waste that heat into the environment. And definitely at the end of
Mhm.
the project, there was mechanical end of the mechanical task. There were electrical and instrumentation side.
Mhm.
So they carried out their whole phenomena on the plant, and DCS control system and other like PLC were required, were
Mhm.
also provided for our instrumentation. And then the plant started. So it included a lot of hard work of all the people who were involved in this project, the
Mhm.
labor, the supervisors, the shift managers which worked with me. And of course, I was leading that project alone, but we had that consultation with some good technical engineers senior than me for the to avoid any mistake or any process hurdle which could lead to the delay in the timeline of the project, and we delivered our project in time to our management.
Mhm. Amazing. I mean, I can of course imagine it must have been quite a stressful period to have such great responsibility on
Yeah,
your shoulder. But then I have to ask because it sounds like, of course, it was a very technical role that you were working in. You were probably applying all of the chemical engineering principles that you had learned in school, which is of course,
of
given,
course, of course. All of the
right?
concepts were totally applied on it, whether it taking
Mhm,
from the adoption side or the
mhm,
catalytic reaction side, or
mhm,
including the process optimization. All of the
mhm.
concepts were including.
Amazing. And and it also sounds like, of course, that you were applying, that you had a very strong experience in chemical engineering skills. But then but instead of that, what I would like to ask you is that apart from the chemical engineering skills, what were the soft skills that you really had to use at the workplace in a project like this?
Yeah, to execute our complete project, for the
Mhm,
execution of our complete project, we had to be more focused on overall skills which are required. And like I
mhm,
can say that project management skills helped a lot,
mhm,
like in delivering that project. The communication skill, the talk with senior management, the
mhm,
reporting, the process formulation, which is the chemistry side, as well as I talk about the soft skills, like a personal skill. A person should be more competent in delivering what he's doing, and he's more, if he's convincing for other people that what he's doing is doing a great job.
mhm,
Like simply we can say that communication skills, presentation skills, presentation,
mhm,
not I'm not talking about the PPT. Actually, presentation
mhm,
mean that how to present your idea in a meeting,
mhm,
or that how can you improve, or how can you module that, how can you model that particular step during the execution of the project.
mhm,
And like convincing the management, the requisitions for new equipment, the like the all of the litigation stuff for the project, and reporting. Of course,
mhm,
reporting, communication, interpersonal skills, soft skills like presentation, effective communication, English language or any local
mhm,
language. If you are competent enough to deal with the labor, you have to talk about
mhm,
the project in their own language. So yes, we had to I had to translate those English or chemical engineering subjects which we were taught in English to our local language in Urdu, and we had some a large workforce who were working and speaking in
mhm,
our mother tongue, which is Punjabi. So I had
mhm,
to translate those
mhm,
decisions of
mhm,
myself into Punjabi, and talk to the labor and the managers sometime, which were not quite good at in English. So I have to it was a complete roller coaster ride.
mhm,
So we have to work with many people in our project. We have to deal with labor, with the managers, with the supervisors, with the technicians. So
mhm,
to talk about the project with each person is quite different. You have to tell
mhm,
a labor one thing at labor's level. You have to tell the manager a task, that is a task
mhm,
you are providing to the manager. I'm talking about the managers, actually the shift managers, which were
mhm,
junior to me during that project. Like work
mhm,
was carried out in the shifts, and it was actually the mechanical side persons which were working alongside me.
mhm. Amazing. I can fully imagine. It does seem like a roller coaster ride having to work with so different people of different backgrounds, right? Uh, but just like you now mentioned, the operators and the technicians, what, what are the challenges that you have experienced in terms of communicating your ideas and maybe the engineering principles to the operators? And for future chemical engineers, how do you think they can actually prepare themselves to be able to communicate with someone that doesn't know anything that they know, but still having to explain complex ideas to someone uh, uh, already on the floor within like seconds.
Yeah, of course. As well as like as you raised the point of communicating with a person which is not an engineer at the plant setup. So
Mm-hmm,
we have to simply translate what we are trying to speak, and what we
mm-hmm,
are trying to deliver to him into a simple wording. Like when I'm talking about my decision, and a troubleshooting situation is in front of me, and I had to ask to the shift operator that you must take this decision and change the pump or whatever it is the requirement at that time. I don't have much time to elaborate the whole concept. I don't have much time to take him to the theoretical background. Yes, how can I do that? I can do it by simply elaborating that agenda and the point into a simple phenomena. Like when I'm talking about a pump troubleshooting, and there is like any problem in mechanical side, I will not ask him to that why the pump is out of the service, what happened to the pump. I'm not gonna ask him about well, tell me, elaborate the reason, blah blah blah. I will directly do instruct him that a pump is now stuck or whatever the problem is coming in the pump. I will elaborate simply him that this happened to the pump. Okay, now you have to take this decision. If I'm trying to convince him that pump the pump any line or any suction head or any delivery whatever the problem is occurred like in specific case we take an example that pump is not delivering the required head. I'm not here to discuss that what happened to the pump and how the delivery head is less, which is then required. I will try to explain to him or ask him or command him that you have to take this decision. So yes, when we are talking about any our with our junior or technician, we don't have much time to elaborate or explaining, but we can convince him by explaining in simple wording so that he can understand the problem, the concept, or that particular case that is in front of us during the process simply like he understands that concept in 2 to 3 seconds.
Exactly. I really agree. Exactly. And you don't really have to justify your actions. You just have to take the action.
Actually, we have no time for the justification.
Of course not. I mean, as a chemical engineer, you only have seconds to make the next decision, right? And it's one small mistake and you miss the train. But now, as a young engineer, now you graduated, what, in 2020? So you graduated, you are still a very young person. You grew up with computers. You have a very good understanding of programming. You have a very good understanding of how to use a computer. Excel, PowerPoint, Word, these are words that are very, they're easy for you to use. They're common for you. Many times, many of the operators that are still working in the industry, or many of the chemical engineers that are working in the industry, that have been here
even many of the chemical engineers don't possess those computer skills. Computer skills are highly demanded. If you are not good at Word, if you are not good at Excel or any PowerPoint or even the chemical process simulation software, you will not perform in industry.
Exactly. I mean, exactly. Of course, we are in the modern time, and you modern time require modern solutions, right? But what I wanted to ask was that if you are looking at all the other engineers and operators that have been in the industry for a much longer, for a long time, for let's say for 40 years, they may not possess the same IT skills that you may have. Have you ever experienced that level of age gap or skill gap between you? Of course, they are experts in many other areas, but they're not experts in the IT part, which is kind of the need of the hour right now. Do you feel that gap tends to affect the communication that you may have with other engineers and other operators that have been in the industry for a lot longer than you may have?
Yes, there is. I can feel. I felt it actually because many of the operators were like elder than me, about 22, even 20 to 30 years more in age. I was still very young from them, and I was like a young kid for them. So they do not possess the computer skills. IT skills is quite devastating at the moment in Pakistan. Yes, it is growing with time, but yes, for old age people don't have much access to the computers or the laptops at moment in Pakistan. But yes, it is growing with time. So these operators usually rely on the concept size and they usually have the command on the experience what is actually happening to the plant. So they are more experienced. They have more skill set performing the operation. They have more skill set on doing their job what they are granted or what they are assigned for. But yes, they do not possess those computer skills as compared to an engineer or a young engineer. Even the young engineers, we had some training engineers in our setup for a particular time. And what I felt them, most of them was coming from public sector universities, and it was very good to see that they were very competent in doing their responsibility, in executing their responsibilities. But on the other hand, there were some students, I call them trainee engineer as a student, because he's still learning the phenomena what is going on in the industry. And many of those trainee engineers usually don't possess the highly required like computer skills. They just possess their simulation skills, what they have been taught in the university. For example, I consider myself at the time, I did not have those skills during my study. And after joining the industry, I learned many softwares, including the Coco, the ChemCAD, the Aspen High, yeah, and then I moved to the project side and learned Microsoft Project, the Primavera P6 Professional. So these are the softwares which are usually we are encountered in our job, not in the university. It is very unfortunate. So people possessing these skills coming from universities are going to perform much more in industry as compared to people like us, which had not, in our case, we had not those much skills of our field related software. But of course, Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel or presentation, these are the good software. And if one student is good enough in all these software skills, he can do well in industry at the start of his career.
Amazing, and I fully agree. But then the very last question I'll ask, and that is just to elaborate on what you just said. In your opinion, then, what are the softwares that students should learn while they are still in school?
During their undergraduate, I would recommend them to learn the ChemCAD, the Coco, the Aspen High, the project related software if one is interested in studying the project side, or he's seeing his future in the project side. Or if someone is more relying to the simulation side, then he should learn the simulation based software regardless of whatever background he is from, either from mechanical or chemical or electrical side. He should learn what are the softwares which are highly required for his own field. Like in case of chemical engineering, we have some renowned softwares like CFD, and for CFD analysis, we use Aspen HYSYS, Aspen Plus softwares. Then we have ChemCAD for process simulation. We usually use the Coco. And then we have some project side softwares like Primavera, as I said, Primavera P6 Professional. We rely on Microsoft Dynamics for our acquisition processes. In industry, we usually use the Microsoft Dynamics for our in-house reporting and scheduling processing. What we are doing inside the industry. And then the Microsoft project example. These are generally one should learn all these softwares and students had time. Students do have time during their final studies. So if one is interested in learning them, he should learn these softwares either from universities which are offering the courses on this software, or from YouTube. We usually have tutorials for all of the softwares available on YouTube.
Amazing. Thank you so very much for sharing that, and fully agree with what you just said. Thank you. Let's, of course, talk about your, you have also recently started off with your own consultancy services.
Yeah, I'm offering my consultancy services nowadays. I've taken my first step for myself. What I've learned from my past industrial experience and what I am still learning, I consider myself as a learner for every job. I am like a student for it. So I learn the core requirement of that particular process or that industry. And after these learnings, I can say, and then I have felt after 3 years of my service, now I have almost 3 years of experience. I felt that I should share my knowledge, because let me talk about the sulfuric acid sector in Pakistan. There are not much renowned engineers working in this sector. So I felt that there is a gap between the industrialist and the professional engineers. And not many people are working in this sector. They usually run away from it because of all of the, because it is like highly gaseous breathing plant, and people usually run away from it because of the health concern or the safety concern. And I do feel that it is very complex for a very complex phenomena. For many of people, they consider that sulfuric acid manufacturing is a quite a simple step, that we usually burn the sulfur, mix the air, and then we mix the water and then make the sulfuric acid. But in reality, this is not what is happening in the plant. We have to consider all the stages equally during the process, and then we have to consider the environment rules and regulations. And the challenge most of the sulfuric acid industry is facing nowadays is environment pollution and the stack problem.
Exactly. And it's great that you have identified a problem and now you're also making a difference to solve that problem. That's of course the very first, the main trait for a consultant. So you're all already on the very right road. But now coming down to the to talk about the scope of your consulting services, what it is that you're aiming. Like for example, if I was to like, what sort of problem should I have for me to be able to contact you to get a solution?
Yeah, they're like as I told you that sulfuric acid manufacturing is quite very simple in terms of chemistry reactions.
Mm-hmm.
That we have to burn the sulfur, we have then oxidation of the sulfur dioxide, and then we have the absorption phenomena. But in practical, we usually face the problems, including the low gas processing, the catalyst poisoning in terms of plant operation. There are some challenges, including the feed rate problem, the sulfur quality problems. Then we face the problem of environmental, which are directly checked by Environmental Protection Agency of Pakistan. So we have to be very sharp regarding all these problems. And the most common problem nowadays in sulfuric acid is actually the stack control problem, because a large number of sulfur dioxide gas is released from the plant, and this sulfur dioxide is simply acid rain. So most of the plant, like as I talked about in sulfuric acid case, like I'm based in Lahore region. I'm working near Lahore region, and there are about like 10 to 15 sulfuric acid plants which are locally manufacturing sulfuric acid. But the problem, most of them are facing the stack problem. A lot of emissions is released from the plant, and nobody is taking responsibility that who is responsible for the emissions, what are the causes of this emission, and how can we reduce emission. Yes, there are some industries which have a strong check and balance. Like as I worked in further chemicals myself, and the management was very concerned about it. They faced a lot of challenges and difficulties, and they were actually facing the fines even from the government side. So then I what I learned from that previous experience, that emission control is actually because of like what is emission control is basically due to the less gas processing or low gas processing in our reactor, or low absorption phenomena, whatever it is the reason. So there are some reasons which are involved during the process, not the end of the stack, that there is a stack is going on, and like in most of the cases even there is a water mist or acid mist is released from some plants. So it is quite concerning for people like me who are working in this sector. And it actually urged me to present myself as a consultant for people who are supervising the who are like running the sulfuric industry and facing the same problems we faced in during our plant. And then I actually installed the sulfuric acid plant. So I learned that during the installation stage, if you control the feeding side, if you control the reactor side, if you control the circulation side of a sulfuric acid plant, I'm talking particularly about sulfuric acid plant, then the chances of the problem are least now. So most of the cases, they do not give importance to the like the feed rate or the feed side of the process. So at the start of the process, if you control the start of the process, and if you optimize this process from the start and from the very beginning, if you start the plant with a possible exact calculation, because the calculations are highly required for plant startup or plant installation. So if you have accurate calculation or near to the accurate calculations, you have less chances of process troubles coming in the few next months. But if you do not pay attention to the calculation or the stoichiometry side of the plant, you're going to face the consequences.
Of course, yeah, I fully agree. I mean, you really have. But now you keep mentioning sulfuric acid production, and it's great that you're an expert in that area. But do you also see yourself expanding your consulting services into other production lines?
Yeah, I'm dealing with I'm trying to deal with the people who are interested in like production of the single superphosphate fertilizer, because fertilizer is widely required chemical in Pakistan, in countries, agricultural countries like Pakistan, or when I talk about Pakistan or the whole South Asia region, it is like a highly agricultural region of the world. And then I can present my services or my expertise in that particular sector as well. And yes, I'm in contact. I'm in contact with around 3 to 4 different groups which are based in Pakistan, which are working on these sectors, and they have their plans for the installation of the project. I deal with the project side. I'm offering my services for the project side as well as for the process consultancy, for the design, for the optimization or any problem analysis. If someone is facing on the sulfuric acid or single superphosphate fertilizer plant, I'm available. And actually, what I felt from my motivation that there is a lot of gap. No engineers are working in this particular sector. No engineers paying. No engineers are paying the attention to the people who had that industries. And yes, on the other side, the management look for the options, available options that can solve their problem. So if someone is interested, if someone is looking for solution, he has to contact or he has to approach any particular expert for that industry. And I felt myself that if I provide my consultancy services for the people who are looking for such consultancies regarding their plants, regarding their project installation, regarding their process problems at their plants, I'm available for them.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really great that you are there. We know you're an expert. We know what you're doing now. But then the final question, of course, is that how do people get in touch with you? Do people can just write to you on LinkedIn and find you, or how would you rather have you
Yes,
contacted?
yes. Let me explain that. At the moment I have started, I have taken that first step, and I've gotten some positive response from people in Pakistan as well as some people out of Pakistan in my near countries, and some people ask for their solution to the problems, and they have emailed me on my provided email, which I have mentioned in my specific post. And I'm planning to start a proper consultancy firm in future, inshallah. And then I will provide consultancy for the firms in a professional way. At moment, I'm working as a self boss. So I'm working as in myself capacity, but in my future, next very next future, I will try to make a proper consultancy firm and like the office setup and all of the corporate setup. But yes, there are the talks, there are the plans of the future. But at moment, I'm providing the consultancy services on my LinkedIn account. If someone is interested or want to have some chat or a discussion with me, they can approach me using my email or my LinkedIn account I have provided. So I use LinkedIn more oftenly as compared to the other applications in my phone. So yes, it is a plus point for me and for the people who are looking for the ideas or the solution to their challenges.
Great, but that's wonderful. And of course, like the most important, the hardest part is to take the first step, right? Once you get started, then of course the next the path kind of finds itself as you move along. So but thank you so very much for sharing your expertise and also about sharing your plans for your consultancy with us here today as well. And I hope the people that are watching, if you have any questions or anything you want to learn more about it, then do feel free to reach out to SAUD right away on LinkedIn. And I think we have provided your LinkedIn link in the description.
I provided my LinkedIn account as well, and then I provided my email ID, personal email ID, and I have provided even my WhatsApp phone number of so that if somebody can approach my using my WhatsApp phone number or or he can email me, or just simply click on my LinkedIn profile and do drop a message in my inbox. Or if someone has not that access, I will try to reach him out if he mentions his problem in comments as well. So I will respond to him.
Of course, yep. And thank you so very much, Saud. Thank you
for having me on this session.
Thank you.
I feel that you're doing a great job as well, and communicating with people all around the globe and bringing the engineers community from all over the world to a single platform. So I was very obliged, and it's my privilege, and it's an honor for me to have a chat with you and have a good session with you. And I tried my best, and I will be in touch for you for your organization, because what the job you are trying to do is like what I'm doing, what I'm going to present in my consultancy services, that we are here to share our knowledge with many people which are now watching us, and they have their questions regarding chemical engineering or any chemical process side. So sharing our experiences from different sectors and different people, and even from different nations. We are a global community, and I'm very proud to be part of it.
Exactly. And well, the pleasure is all ours. And thank you once again so very much for making time out especially on a Saturday morning to be here with us today, and also for sharing all the expertise that you have had. And just like you said, I fully agree. We are a global community, and at the end of the day, all that matters is not how much you have worked or how much money you have made. it's all about how much you can give back to the community, right? How much you can share to help the future graduates of chemical engineers, so that they don't make the same mistakes that you did, and they can go a step further from where we end. So, but it is truly remarkable that we have people like you in the community who are always willing to share their knowledge, and just like you also did with your consultancy firm, they are willing to create solutions rather than complain about the problems. So thank
We
you
are
so
here to
very much.
provide our solutions to the people's questions.
Exactly.
People like students are facing many problems. Most of them their problems are like which we faced in our time. So yes, if you provide them answers and the solutions of what we did not adopted in our time, they can be prevented from all of the hurdles during the studies or either from the start of the career.
Exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's all engineering is all about, right? Finding solutions and not complaining about the problems.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
great. But once again, thank you so very much for being with us here today. We are truly grateful, and we of course wish you the very best for your consultancy firm and also for your future career. Thank you, Saud, and I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Hamza.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. And if you have not done so already, remember to become a free member at Chemical Engineering Life. And do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and stay tuned for more upcoming podcasts with chemical engineers. Thank you and have a great day.